Hi everyone, thank you for watching. I'm Thomas Paris. I'm one of the founders and lead growth strategists at MadKings. It's a growth marketing agency based in Brussels. So now in this video, we're gonna see how to achieve sustainable growth through full funnel optimization. If you want to learn more about me, just go to my Instagram profile, Tom Arrow. You'll see that I love burgers, I love climbing, I love Elon Musk, and of course I love growth marketing. So this is what I hear a lot. Growth hacking or growth marketing, whatever you want to call it, is complete bullshit. I hope you don't agree, and if you do agree, I hope that I will prove you wrong. So yeah, growth marketing was used in the early days by early stage startups that did kind of shade things, so it got a bad name, but actually companies such as Facebook, such as Dropbox, they all came out and they said, well, actually we all use growth hacking and we all have growth teams that do fast experimentation, and this is what allowed them to grow so fast and at such a high pace. And actually what you have to know in this video is that growth hacking is not about the hacks, it's not about that one silver bullet that will make your company skyrocket. It's actually about the process. And if you have to explain it in one sentence, that's actually a process of rapid experimentation through marketing channels, but also in the product experience to identify the most effective and efficient ways to grow a business. And you can't really ignore growth hacking anymore. If you look at this trend from Google, it started back in 2012, and people start to talk all over the world about it. And it has matured so much that it's now used in the highest political sphere. This is actually the website of Emmanuel Macron, and he actually said that he has used a lot of growth hacking tactics, going from conversion rate optimization, behavioral targeting, marketing automation, to go from an unknown person in the political sphere to the president of France. So if you're quite skeptical about growth marketing, actually now you should start being curious about it and try to understand how all these people, how all these companies have applied the growth hacking methodology to grow their businesses. If you're curious about the kind of mindset you need to have to be able to do growth hacking, you need to look at this guy. This guy is 3 times world champion of hot dog eating contests. So the question is, how did he achieve such a goal? Because look at him. He doesn't really fit the guy who would be able to eat that many hot dogs in such a short amount of time. Well, actually, he did a few things. And the first thing that he did, he went to his room and he tested many things to be able to identify the best ways to eat hot dogs as quick as possible. And by testing a lot, he found out like 2 ways to beat all his competitors. First, he actually removed the sausage from the bread. And he would first eat the sausages and then the bread. So that way he would be able to eat much faster. The second thing that he did, he found a loophole in the rules of the contest that allowed him to actually use liquid. So he would then first eat the sausages, then take the bread, put it in water or milk, and then eat the bread, which again would allow him to be much faster. Another great example that I really love is this guy. So let's say that you have 500 pounds left in your wallet and you need a job. What are you gonna do? Well, that's a great example of thinking creatively about a problem and basically using the potential virality of this picture to reach out to as many people as possible and to find a job. So for the mindset of a growth marketer, basically you need to think about 3 things. The first thing is what we call other people's networks. How to use the networks of other people of other websites to get traffic or to get awareness about your product or what you want to sell. Second thing is thinking creatively about a problem. And the third thing is about rapid testing. So instead of spending a lot of time into one action, try to break it down to a lot of tests, and through data, identify what worked the best. So these are all the skills that you need actually to be able to do growth marketing in 2017. You need to understand data, you need to understand marketing automation, you need to understand coding, you need to understand creative marketing. And these, if you look at what people say is a growth hacker, all these skills need to be in one single person. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but we don't think it's possible. Having all these skills into one person, that's not just possible. So two things. First thing is that what you need to do is having what we call a T-shaped profile. A T-shaped profile is basically a basic understanding or basic knowledge of a lot of things like data or content marketing, as we explained, but a very deep knowledge in one or two skills. And the second thing, actually, to be able to do growth marketing, you actually need a growth team. It's impossible to do everything alone. You need to have somebody from your data team, somebody from your marketing team, dev team, design team, and all together they create the growth team that have what we call the license to kill, to be able to test everywhere where there is growth. So it can be in the product, it can be in the marketing, it can be anywhere. Now the question is, why does growth hacking, why does growth marketing matter? Well, as you probably know, we live in a digital world where everybody is connected, and that has some implications. The first implication is that everything is measurable. So we kind of went from that creative marketing guy who would think about the campaign in a room during hours or days, and then suddenly came up with great copy, to that data-driven marketer who looks at data and gets insights from them and find the best growth opportunities, and then use those opportunities to grow the business. The second thing is that everything goes super fast nowadays. So it's much more important actually to have a methodology and a mindset to react very quickly to change and to evolve and to adapt than spending so much time in creating one campaign and just hoping that it will work. The third implication is that not really the product is the main challenge, but distribution really is. Why? The first thing is that as we are bombarded by advertising coming from all around, from our cell phone, from the street, everywhere, we actually now have an attention span in average of 8 seconds, which is kind of the same or even less than a goldfish. And everybody is fighting for the same attention. That's a problem. So if you look at this graph, it actually shows the growth in advertising in the last years in the US, and you see that it's increasing year over year. So not only people have a short attention span, everybody is fighting for the same attention. And that's why retention is so important. As cost of customer acquisition increase every year, you need to focus on retaining your customers. This is a graph that shows the average retention of Android apps in a period of 90 days. If you look at the first 7 days, this is the key period where you need to activate your users, which means you need to convince them to stay in your product, because otherwise they will leave. And so you really need to focus on that retention to be able to increase the customer lifetime value and afford a higher cost of customer acquisition. So sorry about the small problem in design, that's a policy issue, but basically this is a picture that just to make it stick into your mind. Focus on your existing customers, focus on improving their experience before you look at acquiring new leads. And the last implication of that digital world is that the consumer in average has become much smarter. That's that person, that consumer now has all the power, all the purchasing power, because when he's actually looking for a product, he's gonna look in his phone, he's gonna look in Google, he's gonna ask his friends, he's going to get a lot of information before he makes a decision. And the thing is, also the customer journey has completely changed. Before you had that brand creating a great product and then just creating a big campaign and then selling it through retail stores or on the street, and then people would buy it. Now the relationship between a consumer and a brand has completely changed. And through digital channels, actually you can create a much longer relationship between that brand and that consumer. Because once the person has bought the product, then you can focus on retention, or you can focus on making sure that they buy other products, or you can make sure that you can provide other value. So through digital channels, you can actually build that relationship in the long term. This guy has all the power. So before he makes the final decision to buy a product, he will look for information on Google, on social media, he will ask his friends, and he will make much more educated decision. Also, what has changed is the relationship between a consumer and a brand. Before, a brand would make a great product and then creates a campaign and then sell it through distribution channels, like on the street or on TV or whatever. Nowadays, you can actually create a relationship much earlier on when the consumer is actually looking for the product. And if you educate that consumer and help makes a better decision, you will earn his trust much early on, which will allow you to create a much longer term relationship. So that complexity actually creates a lot of opportunities. If you look at how to map that customer journey, you can use what we call the R framework. The R framework is a way to map every step of the consumer journey from awareness, acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And in the coming slides, I will also show you a few examples of each stage. Now, to optimize that full customer journey, you need a process. You need to know where to start, and you need to know what actions would be the most useful to optimize every stage of the conversion funnel. And that's what we call the growth process. So here below you have the foundations, and then you have the northstar metric, and then you have what we call the growth loop to be able to test quickly and identify the most efficient ways to grow a business. So let's start with the foundations. First, all the strategy, everything that you want to do starts with the persona, which is a way to better understand, let's say, a fictive person that represents your customer segment. So deep dive into your data and make a very powerful analysis of your persona. Then identify what's your northstar metric. The northstar metric is not a business metric, it's a consumer first metric. It's a metric that actually calculates the value that you bring to your customers. For Airbnb, it's the amount of nights booked, because for each booked night, they actually add value to both the host and the guest. The second thing that you need to think when defining your northstar metric, it's actually a metric that is independent of the customer journey. What does that mean? That means that if Airbnb focuses on acquiring more consumers, the northstar metric will improve. If, on the other hand, they focus on improving the experience of the existing customer base and make sure they actually use the product more intensively, the northstar metric will also improve. So think about what is your northstar metric, and think about your company as a boat. And even if there are waves, even if it's dark, you have your northstar metric that gives you the direction. Third pillar to start your growth process is having a very strong analytics framework. So for that, you need to use what we call user-centric tools. So not Google Analytics, but a tool like Mixpanel, that will allow you, to track every user action. And you can then create a segment of your persona and look at the conversion funnel for that specific segment and identify the bottlenecks in that customer journey. The last pillar that you need to identify is what we call the wow moment. At which stage in the funnel people really go from, okay, I'm interested, to I'm really convinced. The very famous example is the Facebook 10 friends in 7 days. So Facebook knew that if people had added at least 10 friends in 7 days, the chance that they would be retained in the future was much higher, because they knew that that was really the wow moment, that magic number. If people would add 10 friends, then they would understand the value of the product. So once you have that, you have your analytics tools installed, you have your northstar metric, your wow moment, your persona analysis. You kind of know where the bottlenecks are in your funnel. And then you need to, of course, come up with great ideas on how to improve acquisition or your referral, whatever you want, whatever you need to improve. For the awareness part, these channels come from the book Traction, and as you can see, there are a lot of ways to create awareness and to drive traffic to your website or to your app. So there is no reason why you should have problems with that. This is just a few, there are actually many more. For example, I'm a big fan of Facebook ads. Many reasons why, and the first reason is that it allows you to be super creative in the way you are going to deliver your message. Just to show you a few examples, on the left side, you have what we call the carousel ad, which allows you to be very creative. On the right side, you have the Canva ad, which gives people an immersive experience to discover what you have to offer. And a great thing is also what we call the lead ad, which is basically an ad. When people click on the call to action, it makes them arrive on a form. So instead of getting people from the ad to a landing page, they stay on Facebook, which really drives conversions. And there is no reason why you should not do Facebook ads in 2017 and 2018. Why? Because everyone that has an internet connection and that has access to Facebook is probably on Facebook. Maybe not the elder population, but all the rest is. And even in the B2B, don't forget that people sell or people buy from people. So, and in the B2B, even if you sell to a company, you actually always sell to someone who works in a company. A very great example that we run, it was for a company selling baby products. And basically we use to drive the knowledge about their products. We created a tool. So it's an engineered marketing project. And that tool allowed you through data science to identify what would be your favorite names for your baby. So we ask, okay, what is the gender? Is it a male? Is it a female? And then through 20 questions, we actually give you a short list of what would be your favorite names. And of course, that got very popular, and people were sharing it like crazy. And we put the pixel of the client on that tool or on that website that allowed us to do retargeting on the people who actually use that product, and we know that they are going to be parents, so that was very powerful. In terms of acquisition, so the acquisition phase is basically the first transaction between a brand and a prospect, but it's not a monetary transaction. It's actually a transaction of the prospect giving, one, his information, secondly, the right to the brand to contact him in the future, which is very important to have the opt-in for the GDPR that is coming. And in a way to do that is basically through mainly content. So if you provide value, if you provide valuable content to your prospect and you educate them and you understand at which stage they're actually getting information and which stage they're ready to buy, if you really help them make the best decision through high valuable content, then you have a much higher chance to convert them in the future. So a great way to do that is for example, to create a calculator on your website. If you sell, for example, solar panels, then you can help your prospects identify what would be the return on investment of those solar panels. So create that small tool that allowed you to allow your prospects to make a better decision, and in exchange, they will give you the information and they will buy from you in the future. So for another client, what we did is we created a landing page that's for a running app. And through that landing page, they can just give their first name, last name, and email. In exchange, they get a white book on how to train for 20 kilometers. So we know that these people, they are training for the 20 kilometers. So we do retargeting, and we have a pop-up on the website to capture the email. And so through Facebook retargeting and email retargeting, we actually drive them to the activation. But first, the first customer touch point is about delivering value. For that, just for you to look at home, to drive conversion on a page, we use two models. The first one is what we call the lift model with the plane. And the second one is the principles of persuasion. So I invite you to look it up and read about them. The next phase in the conversion funnel is what we call the activation. So as I said, going from a psychological point of view, okay, I'm interested to I'm convinced. For my fit, which was the previous example, it's basically when they do the endurance test. So you download the app, and then after the onboarding, we ask you to run for 6 minutes as fast as possible. And after that, you receive a highly customized training program to run, for example, for 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers, depending on your goal. But that's when people realize, okay, it's not just any app, it's an app customized for me. And that's how Slack got so popular, because they have an amazing activation process. They have an amazing onboarding. When you download Slack, it's with that onboarding, you directly understand the value and how it works. They don't make you think. And that activation, that purple activation, is really one of the key factors why they grew so quickly. That's another example. I'm just gonna click play here. That's another example from an e-commerce in Australia that sells mattresses. So kind of a commodity. But when I looked at this video, I was activated, and you're gonna see why. The guy jumps on the mattress. There is a whine. I think you all know that experience, that the whine that completely destroys your mattress. In this case, it was perfect. And that's a video where I went from, okay, I was interested to I'm activated. It's amazing. I cannot live another day without this mattress. And why is activation so important? It's because it's strongly linked to retention. Actually, if you look at the graph, what makes the worst apps going to the best apps is that 7 days period where people tend to churn. The idea here is that or you activate them in 7 days, or they will live forever. So you have really, in the mobile app world, but also in other industries, you have a very short amount of time to understand what is your wow moment and make sure people hit that wow moment. And the goal is to make sure they don't become your zombie users or your zombie prospects, which we all have in our CRM or in a database. And for that, you really need to understand that you first have to focus on improving the customer experience of your existing customers before focusing on acquisition. So in the media industry, for example, where we are very active on, the idea is that, okay, you might have a lot of ads if you're not a paid user, but make sure that if people become a paid user, that you decrease the amount of advertising by at least 80% to deliver an amazing experience. Compute what's your current NPS score for your existing clients, and if it's not good, don't focus on acquisition. Focus on retention and focus on activation, and then you will focus on acquisition. And a great way to improve your retention is through gamification. So make people actually use your product as if it was a game, and don't make them think. For example, for the mobile app that I use for myself, if I run, I get points and I become, for example, a super runner or a mega runner. I don't get any money for it. I just get self-satisfaction, I would call it. And that really drives me to go back to the app and to keep using it. The great thing about retention is that it's really a multiplier of growth. If you increase retention, you will decrease your you will increase your customer lifetime value, which will allow you to afford a higher cost of customer acquisition, and then grow your business by getting new customers or new kinds of customers. If you want to learn more about retention, I strongly advise you to read the book called The Hook Model. It will give you great insights on how to improve that part of your funnel. Going to referral now, so we have active users that we want to turn into ambassadors. So you all know about the Dropbox referral program. Well, that was a great way, and one of the first of its kind referral programs that retributed both the people who were inviting users and the users who were subscribing. So that was a very powerful way to use actually your existing and happy customer base to go back to the acquisition. Another great way to drive or to create viral campaigns is to use what we call the milestone referral program. So basically, how does it work? You create a landing page where you install your referral program, and then when people subscribe, they get a unique link that they can use to invite their friends or colleagues. And if, for example, they invite 10 friends, they get a special gift. If they invite 15, they get a better gift. If they invite 50, for example, they will get 3 years or lifetime use of your product for free. So that milestone program really incentivizes people to share their experience and make sure that the first milestone is actually very easy to reach. And the last part of the funnel is what we call the revenue. That's when you're going to optimize the customer lifetime value by doing, for example, cross-selling or upselling. So that's also the part where you have to think about the checkout process, the payments, the business models, and you need to make sure that that checkout process is as simple as possible. It's too bad to lose people that actually want to buy just because the UX or the experience is really bad. And there you have it. I just gave you a few ideas for each stage of the conversion funnel, and now you should have a better understanding of every step. Now the idea is, okay, you find your best persona, you, through the data, identify where the bottlenecks are, and you need to optimize the full customer journey for that persona. For that, in order to be able to choose from all the things, all the actions that you can do to be able to identify the best ones, you need the process. And that's the other part of this slide, that's the growth hacking process. So we talked about the foundations, we talked about the northstar metric, the data, the persona, the full funnel, and now you need to have that growth loop to be able to test as many things as you can and know what works and what doesn't work for your funnel. So let's start with the first stage, where you have a problem in your funnel and you need to ideate and come up with the best ideas. For that, we use what we call the growth marketing canvas, and that's a tool for ideation and brainstorming, where you should get people from all your departments to come together during one day and brainstorm about all the stages of the funnel. Once you have a lot of ideas, you need to prioritize. For that, we use what we call the I score, that gives you a score based on 3 criteria: the impact, the confidence, and the ease. We usually start with the confidence. The confidence is basically how confident do you feel whether or not it will become a win. So if you want to improve the activation, does that experiment, does that idea have a strong potential to actually have a strong impact on the activation? And then you go to the impact. Let's say that it works. Let's say that the experiment will result in a win. Will that have a big impact on your business? If we take, for example, the goal of increasing your Twitter followers, and you run an action, and you're very confident that it will work, and then you go to the impact, and you say, okay, if it works, so if I improve my Twitter follower base, will it have an impact on my business, yes or no? Probably not. So it should have a high score on the confidence, but a lower score on the impact. And then the third and very important criterion is the ease. So will it take a lot of resources? Will it be expensive to put in place? And with the brainstorming and the prioritization, you now should have a concrete list of action that you should be running in the coming weeks, in the coming sprints. The goal here is to improve the northstar metric, one metric at a time. So don't try to improve activation and retention during the same sprint. You need to have a goal, and we're going to talk about that right after. You need to have a goal for activation or for the part of the funnel that you want to improve, and you need to focus on reaching that goal before improving other parts of the funnel. The next phase, once you have the experiments that you want to run, you need to come up with a goal. So we advise you to use a test card that enables you to create or to design the test. I want to improve this. To do that, I'm going to do this and measure this, and I'm right if I achieve that goal. So you need to what we call draw a line in the sand, so come up with a goal, a number that you want to reach before you can consider the experiment as a win. And then it's all about execution, execution, execution. It's hard work. It's that moment where people come with excuses or with results. So it's a key, of course, it's a key step in the process. And as we explained in the beginning, you need a lot of skills, and you need people with different skills to work together with one single goal. And for the execution, we use the agile methodology. So instead of running projects for months, we bring it down to sprints of maximum 2 weeks. So in the first sprint in the graph, that's when we execute the first experiment, and then after the 2 weeks, it's running. So it's in the test phase, and we have time to start with the second experiment, where in the same time that the first experiment is running, and then we are getting results. And there is not much to be done with the first experiment until we get results, and then we identify whether or not it worked and whether or not we should scale and systemize this experiment. So it's a completely new way of working. We don't only think about awareness and acquisition like marketing teams usually do. We think about the entire customer journey, the entire funnel. We don't work in big projects, but it's fast iterations, and we are very, very customer-centric. Everything starts by understanding your customer. Just 2 freebies for you guys. If you want to improve your strategy, look at what your competitors or similar companies in your market are doing. You can use SpyFu and SimilarWeb to do so. They will enable you to look at their acquisition channels, what kind of keywords they're using, what kind of traffic, what kind of audience they have. So use those tools, they are very powerful. And the idea is to get to that graph. So not a campaign kind of way of working where you get, if you run 4 campaigns, you get 4 peaks a year, but running experiments quickly. Once you have results, then implementing those results or this experiment in your company, so systemizing that experiment into your company, and then running other experiments which will have an incremental effect on your growth. And if you get to that fast experimentation, you will definitely beat your competition by winning the speed game. So develop empathy, understand the full customer journey, activation is key, build a process of rapid testing, data levels all arguments, never stop learning, and win the speed game. Thank you very much. Feel free to go on madkings.com if you want to have more information, or reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. See you soon.